Hello, welcome again back to a series of the Quintessence recordings. This is Ron Ditmars talking to you from the recording studio of the Erasmus Academy in Brooklyn, New York. And today we're going to be covering Lesson 3, which corresponds to the Jannach Chapter 3, the Jannach German for Reading Knowledge textbook that we're using for the course. And it's so called the Quintessence because we are offering or presenting the most important elements of the chapter to be understood. And we also cover going through some of the vocabulary lists, like the easy key and the 100 stems, as well as the workbook that we're going to be using. So we'll introduce some of those exercises and just give examples of how you would answer those. So basically, this would be an introduction to this chapter, and hopefully you have a chance to go through it and understand the most important things to look for as you work through the chapter. Today, our guest speaker is Matthew. Matthew, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Matthew Berry. I'm a PhD student at Southwestern Seminary in Fort Worth, Texas. I just completed the Erasmus German course in the intensive format over the summer, and I'm glad to be here with you today.
How did that course turn out for you?
It turned out well. Thankful to say that I passed the course and learned quite a bit of German.
Right. Okay, so you see on the screen the first chapter 3, and the chapter 3 actually packs a good deal of information here. It introduces. First of all, chapter 2 we looked at the accusative case. So this chapter 3 introduces both the dative and the genitive cases, and chapter 1 introduced the gender of the nouns, which is very important to go back and review from time to time. So let's take a look at the dative case here. I'm just going to scoot down a little bit. So we had the nominative and the accusative so far, and can you see my mark here, Matthew?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. Nice and clear blue. So you have the nominative case. So the definite articles are der, die, das, and then the plural is die. And this just means if it's the subject of the sentence. So you would have, when we always use the, German uses a different definite article for depending upon the gender of the noun. So for masculine it's der, for feminine it's die, and neuter it's das. When you come the accusative or the direct object, then for the masculine, it's den, so pronounced, but the feminine and the neuter are the same form as the nominative. And then the dative, which is dame, so the dative to or for someone, also called the indirect object. I give a book to my friend, or I write a story for my parents, that sort of thing, would be in the dative case. And so a cue to the connection to English is really whom. To whom did you give something? So that M in English from whom comes actually from the M in the dative definite article in German. Okay, so the feminine is der, and then neuter is dame, if the noun is feminine or neuter. And then for plural, it's den plus an N on the noun, and we'll see lots of examples of that. Okay, let's see. And really, the foundation, the whole foundation of the language is based on the declension of the definite article. So you really, when you see a definite article, you have to explain what case it is, and that will really indicate the role of that word in that sentence. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. And as I read the sentence out loud, Matthew, if you'd be willing to repeat after me. And then also, as he repeats the sentence, please read aloud with him so you get a sense of the flow of the sentence and also some practice in pronunciation. Okay, let's read this first one. Der Professor, let me just make the mark here so we can see where we are. Der Professor gibt der Studentin den Artikel. Everybody?
Der Professor gibt der Studentin den Artikel.
Okay, so here you have your verb here, and where's the subject, Matthew?
The subject is der Professor.
Good, and the direct object?
Is den Artikel.
Good. So we actually sorry for the mess here. We actually box the verb put a circle around the direct object and draw an arrow from this transitive verb to a direct object. So it transfers the action from the verb to the direct object. This happens to be masculine, so that's why the form is den here. And what case is this? Der Studenten?
That's the dative case.
Dative, and we indicate dative with carrots on either side. Delicious carrots. Okay, so this happens to be feminine, that's why it's der. So in these examples, you're obviously writing the words that are in the dative case are in bold here. Let's do the next one. Die Sonne gibt der Erde Wärme.
Die Sonne gibt der Erde Wärme.
The verb is?
Gibt.
Gibt, and the direct object is?
Wärme.
Wärme, good. So in German, very often the pattern is to have the indefinite article, or I'm sorry, the indirect object precede the direct object, or the dative precede the accusative. So in this case, it's the sun gives warmth to the earth. We normally say to the earth, and so sometimes in English you anticipate a preposition there, but the dative in German actually subsumes or assumes the preposition in that phrase there. Okay, just one more. Der Regisseur erklärt dem Schauspieler den Text. Everybody?
Der Regisseur erklärt dem Schauspieler den Text.
Okay, so where's your verb?
Erklärt.
Erklärt. Now let's just take a look at these definite articles. Why is this der?
Because it is a masculine nominative or noun.
Good. It's a noun. It's a nominative, and it happens to be masculine. Why is this den here?
The den is because it is an accusative.
Good.
Masculine noun.
Good. So lots of things to think about. So it explains the text, and then what is this? Dem Schauspieler is what case?
Is in the dative.
Mm-hmm. Why is it dem?
Because Schauspieler, I believe, is masculine.
It is. So dem is the definite article in the dative case for either masculine or neuter. Just one second. So just with these simple sentences, there's an awful lot to figure out, and you should really, let me just move, you should have that chart and write it out and put it to the side, and as you're analyzing these sentences, it's best practice to try to explain the form of the definite article, just as we did with this sentence here. Okay. How about next one? This one here. Wir zeigen den Besuchern das Parlament. Repeat that.
Wir zeigen den Besuchern das Parlament.
Okay, so show, we are showing here. Where's the direct object?
Das Parlament.
Good. Mm-hmm. So it transfers the action to the direct object. And why is it das there?
Because Parliament is in the neuter.
Good, is a neuter noun. And so this is the direct object, definite article, direct object for a neuter noun in the accusative. And den Besuchern is what case, obviously?
Den Besuchern is
in the dative,
plural.
Is plural in the dative case. And
Dative plural, yeah.
Now, why is this den here in the dative?
Because that's the article for the plural, and
the plural in the
picks
dative.
Up the n at the end.
And what about this n here?
That's the additional one that the plural dative case picks up on the original noun.
Great, fantastic. So, I mean, I'm sure just going through these sentences, you can say, gosh, German is so complicated. But if you get this down, if you get the declension of the definite article, and you can figure out the reason for its form, that will take you a long way, because, as I said, as you'll see, the whole language is based on the definite article, the declension of the definite article, and that's the role. In other words, in some languages, I mean, even in Latin and Greek, you'll have a change of the noun to indicate what case it is. But in German, it's the definite article that takes that role of indicating, what what role that word plays in the sentence. Okay, sorry for such a long-winded presentation, but what do you think, Matthew, having taken the course this past summer, is it pretty critical to figure that sort of thing out? Sort of
Absolutely. If you can
beginning?
take the time to figure that out, then in the end, it will allow you to dissect sentences much easier.
Great. Okay. All right. So here's some verbs that always take both an indirect direct object and also an indirect or dative case. So erklären, to explain. We explain something to someone. To give, we give a gift to a parent or to a child. To buy, we buy something, a house for our children, if we're lucky. Schenken, we give something to someone, then send. So all these verbs can take both the direct object and the accusative. Let's see. Let's just do this last one, another example down here. Die Kindergärtnerin, which is the preschool teacher, the kindergarten teacher, female, IN, kauft den Kindern die Eintrittskarten. Just up to there. Translate or repeat.
Die Kindergärtnerin kauft den Kindern die Eintrittskarten.
Here's a word, Kinder, which is very close to our, obviously, kindergarten comes from that. Okay, where's the subject?
The subject is die Kindergärtnerin.
We normally start with a verb, but where's the verb?
Kauft.
Kauft, third person singular. He or she buys. And then where's the direct object?
Die Eintrittskarten.
Great. Why is this DIE?
Because it's a feminine in the accusative case.
Good. It's actually a plural accusative, so all plurals are DIE. Eintrittskarte but it also happens to be feminine, but that doesn't play a role in the case that it's a plural. And what about den Kindern? What case is that?
Den Kindern is in the dative case.
Good, indicated with carrots. And so this, and why is it den here, which we had above?
Because it's in the plural, so it's den, and Kinder takes an extra N on the end.
So this added N on the dative plural will really be helpful to you going forward, because that's a way to identify it, to distinguish it from the accusative, for example. It's a sure telltale that it's the dative plural, to or for the children. Great. Okay, so we did that in quite a bit of detail, don't you think, Matthew?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, there's some verbs that always take the dative. For example, helfen, very much like English. Danken, also like English, we thank. So ich helfe dem Regisseur. Instead of having an accusative here, it always has the dative. And it's also termed in other textbooks as like the dative object. We believe in the reports. Again, glauben always takes the dative, and also to belong to, which intuitively also takes the dative. It's pretty easy to think of that, to belong to something. Okay, nicely done. And then additional words that take the dative objects: to answer to someone, to thank someone for something. Then they introduce the genitive. As I said, this chapter is packed with a lot. So here, this is the possessive, indicating possessive, and this is the fourth case. There are only 4 cases. There's not the ablative like in Greek in Latin. But the indication of the dative is des for the masculine, plus the s on the noun, der for feminine, no added s, and des for the neuter. So it's des, der, des, and der. So although this book just lists this separately, I would the best practice is to take that paradigm, which is above, which indicates the 3 cases, and then just add the genitive there. So you have that, and put that next to your desk, or right next to the paper that you're working on through these sentences. And every time you come to a definite article, try to identify where in that chart and why it is a particular case, like either nominative, subject, or accusative, etc. Okay, let's take a look at some of these examples here. And the genitive is always in bold. Let's read some of these. Der Name des Künstlers.
Der Name des Künstlers.
Das Werkzeug des Arbeiters.
Das Werkzeug des Arbeiters,
Why is this des here?
because it's in the genitive
Mhm.
case,
And what about the s
and
here?
it is indicating the masculine.
Mhm. Well, it's either masculine or neuter.
Masculine or neuter,
Yeah,
so it's picking up an additional S.
yeah. So another way to identify this as possessive or the genitive is the s tacked onto all masculine nouns or neuter nouns. The feminine nouns don't get anything; they have to stand by themselves. Okay. How about this one? Die Bewegung der Erde.
Die Bewegung der Erde,
Why is this der?
because it is feminine. Erde is feminine, and it's in the genitive.
Yeah, exactly. This is a feminine noun. By the way, two-syllable words that end with e are 85% feminine. So it's die Erde, the earth. How about die Farbe des Hauses?
Die Farbe des Hauses,
And why is it es instead of just s on the end of the house?
because you can't add an S to the end of a word that already ends in an S. Therefore, you pick up an additional E.
I couldn't have said it any better. That's great. Okay, der Einfluss der Kirche.
Der Einfluss der Kirche,
Hmm. And this is der because?
because it's a feminine dative noun.
Yeah, Kirche is feminine and it's in the genitive.
Feminine noun with a genitive case. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right, great job. Let's see. Okay. All right, going on. Let's see. Next is now the next item in this chapter is the plural formation of the nouns. It looks a little bit daunting at first, but it's really not too hard to recognize. So you have here the whole. So there are 8 or 9 different patterns for forming the plural. In English, we just tack on an s or es, but here there are different ways. Beginning with der Verfasser, die Verfasser. Is there any change here in this first one?
There's not a change to the noun, no,
Okay, oftentimes with nouns that end with er, they stay the same for the plural, as you see here. And how do you know the difference?
because the article changes.
This means as you see, author. So this is the author, the authors. They don't give the plural English here, but just add a plural to this. So die is the only way to realize that this is a plural. How about der Mantel? What is added?
It picks up an umlaut over
Yeah,
the A.
that's the only difference. So, and this doesn't change the spelling here, except so you know that that's the coats. How about der Versuch?
Der Versuche gains the E at the end of the word.
Yeah, and you can just see here on the right what is added. Der Sohn, die Söhne. Is there a difference in pronunciation there?
Absolutely, because the umlaut actually changes the vowels sound, and the E at the end changes.
Yeah, so two things are indicated that that's moving from the. So that's the sons. Der Mann, die Männer.
Der Mann, die Männer, and it gains an umlaut plus an ER at the end of the word.
So similar to this, although it just adds an ER, der Mann, die Männer. So then you can just see how the changes are for these words as an N. And now das Auto is a foreign word that comes into German. German really doesn't know what to do with it, so they just tack on an S on it. It looks very un-German. Die Autos. Then you can also, lots of words make the plural form just by adding en here. You have die Frau and die Frauen as the plural, the women. Okay, nicely done. So let's see. And I want to compliment you all who are listening in repeating very accurately after Matthew. I think you're doing a great job too. Okay, now the next part here introduced in this chapter are the so-called N nouns, and they present just a little bit of difficulty. They are masculine nouns, always masculine nouns only, that take an E or an EN ending in the plural formation. So this would be der Student ist ein guter Mensch, which simply is the student is a good human being. There's no ending here. But here, and then this is also the plural, the students are good people, sind gute Menschen. This is just the plural formation, no difference there. But if you come to a word, this sentence here. Let's read this out loud. Wir suchen einen guten Menschen, everybody.
Wir suchen einen guten Menschen.
Good. Now, this looks like it's a plural formation, but this is one of those N nouns, and you have the en ending in the three cases, genitive, dative, and accusative. So where's the verb here, Matthew?
Suchen.
Good. Suchen, and subject is obviously?
Wir.
Yeah. And then direct object?
We are good. Guten.
Yeah, you could say this whole thing, this
Good.
guten
Guten Menschen.
Now you would think this is plural, but it's not. The en ending here is just because it's an N noun, and it sort of has the adjectival ending, as you'll see later. So this is not, this is obviously singular. We are looking for a good person. Let's see. Let's do this one here. Wir helfen dem guten Menschen, everybody.
Wir helfen dem guten Menschen.
So helfen takes what, remember, as a verb? What case does it always like to take?
I can't remember immediately.
the dative case. It takes the dative. So you have the dative in this whole phrase here, den guten Menschen. So is this the good people plural, or is it a good person singular?
That one is dative singular, again, because it's an N noun and taking the en because of its nature as a noun and not because it's plural.
Exactly. So so recognizing that as an N noun and not confusing it with a plural noun itself. Great. Okay. So those are something to look at. Here are some examples of N nouns. Remember, they're all masculine. And this is just a small sampling of them. So these would all fall into that category. For example, if you're saying philosopher, philosoph, we're looking for a good philosopher. Wir suchen einen guten Philosophen, it would be, because it's the accusative, again, as the example indicated above. But this is just a small sampling. There are probably 200 or 300 words that are common in German that have these characteristics. Okay, great job. So let's see. I think we're going to scoot on now. It also introduces the past tense of the weak verbs. We haven't been introduced to the strong verbs yet, but the weak verbs are those that have no vowel change moving from the present tense to the past tense. So the verb is spielen, to play. This is the infinitive. Let's see if you can make my mark. It's better if I mark here, right? To play, to spielen. And it's I-E-S-P-I-E-L-E-N, to play. So what they do to form the past tense is they take off the en of the infinitive and just tack on these endings, te, T-E-S-T, te, and then all the way down here. So let's just read some of this. Ich spielte, everybody.
Ich spielte.
Du spieltest.
Du spieltest.
Sie spielte.
Sie spielte.
So this would be I played, you played, you personal played. She played, and remember the Z for the formal, way that I would address a person whom I don't know, even my own age or someone of a profession. And I would say, Sie spielten. You played the guitar very well last night, something like that. So, and then you have the slight change with verbs that end with a T, whose base ends with a T or a consonant, because instead of you have spielte, spieltest, spielte, spielten, spieltet. Actually, in the past tense, there's no difference of that, but you have in the present tense slight differences from the verbs that don't end with a consonant. Okay, let's see. So the strong verbs actually have a vowel change, which we'll see in the next couple chapters. Okay. We also like to just take a look at the Grundwortschatz. Remember, these are the words that you have to learn in each chapter. And also, when you read them out loud, always remember to include the definite article, so you get a chance to practice the patterns of the gender. And so in going through this, it's nice to look at some words that have similar English connected words to it. So what about bauen? We had this before, bauen, to build. Let's see. What about Duncan? Is that close, Matthew?
Yes, it just really replaces the th in thank with d,
Hmm. Yeah.
or Duncan.
How about done?
Don and then, rather close.
Hmm. I'm just pointing out the ones that seem close. Um, uh, Here we have an ent, which means away from as a prefix. What about this one? Invent, erfinden. What connection do you see there?
You have find kind of in the middle of erfinden.
Good.
So
Okay. Hmm.
to invent is almost to find something.
Yeah.
Something
I
new.
remember invent really means to come into something. Invenire, in Latin. Then you have the invention here, ung. Why is this a feminine noun?
Because it ends in ng.
Well, ung.
Ung.
Yeah. So you
My
would say
apologies.
that's okay. Die Erfindung, you would say. How about this word here? Erst.
Erst, first, again, uh, phonetically kind of similar.
Great. Die Farbe. Why do we say die Farbe?
Because it's a feminine noun, so it takes d as the article.
What about this pattern, this two-syllable thing? Can you say anything
I'm not
about that?
sure enough.
Well, two-syllable words that end with e are about 85% feminine. So really, our strategy is to try to identify endings, recalling what we learned in chapter 1, to identify uh, what is the determinant factor of that word in being either feminine, neuter, or masculine. How about Flüssigkeit? Why is that feminine?
Because of the ending in the keit.
Exactly, yeah. How about Forscher? Why is that masculine?
It ends in er.
Okay, so this is basically, and what about Forscherin?
It ends in the in.
So this is the researcher, and who would be the Forscherin?
Would be the female researcher.
Exactly. Yeah, great. Good, doing a great job. Okay, so again, this is really strategies for learning vocabulary and things to look out for to recognize. How about ökologie? Why is that feminine?
It ends in ie.
Great. Yeah, die Ökologie. Roma, we know. Is this similar here? Sagen?
Sagen, yeah, to say.
Very close. Stadt, very close to that. How about this one?
Varma, very close to warm.
Yeah. And how do we know it's feminine?
It ends in the e. It's the two-syllable word that ends in e.
And does this give us a clue here also? The F here?
Yes.
I'm just joking. Obviously, the genders are indicated to the right. So,
If only they would write it in German that way in all of their text. Just put the gender in parentheses at the
Yeah.
end of every word.
Let's read some of these, just supplying the article. Der Stadt,
Der Stadt,
der Teil,
der Teil,
der Versuch,
der Versuch,
die Wärme,
die Wärme.
die Weltkrieg.
Wouldn't it be der Weltkrieg?
Didn't I say der Weltkrieg?
You might have. It sounded like D to me, but
Maybe I did. I don't know. That's good. Okay, that's great. So let's look at a little bit further down. We really didn't have time to do this in such detail during the course, but I think this is helpful. Do you think it's helpful to sort of, and you could sort of make your own mental thoughts about how to connect with a word?
absolutely. I think it's really pivotal trying to learn the vocabulary. My encouragement would be spend a great deal of time on the vocabulary, because later on in the course, the vocabulary becomes probably your greatest limiting factor
Yeah,
for translation, is being able to recognize words.
yeah, great suggestion. How about de day?
De,
And that
and very,
relate very closely to idea.
yeah, very
This
close.
ee is probably problematic to pronounced, but it's actually de day is how they pronounce that. And then kaufen. Okay, great. All right. An interesting word with zahl, number. So that we haven't had the verb yet, but here you have zahlen. So to erzählen is to actually tell a story, and it's very close to give an account for something, to enumerate actions that have occurred. So sometimes the etymology and the connection of the words also can help to keep that in your mind. Okay, we're doing just a couple of sentences from here. Let's go through number 6 here, and just try to identify the different cases. Let's see. Yeah, number 6. Hold on 1 second. Okay, let's read that one. Die Revolution des epischen Theaters änderte die deutsche Bühne. Everybody?
Die Revolution des epischen Theaters änderte die deutsche Bühne.
Where's the direct object? I'm sorry, the verb?
Änderte.
So it changed, and the subject is?
Die Revolution.
Good. And then what case is this, des epischen Theaters?
That's in the genitive.
How can you tell?
Because it is a masculine singular, but it has des, and it also picks up the S at the end of theaters.
Perfect. Yeah, there's how you identify it. With a des for a masculine and neuter, and then the S tacked onto that noun. Sorry. And we do this with a parentheses identifying the genitive cases. Okay. How about number 8? This is Volkswagen, which is the people's wagon, the word for the car company. When I was living in Germany, I purchased a couple of Volkswagens, and actually from people who were traveling in Europe. I was studying there for 6 years in Freiburg, and so I had friends who would come over. They'd buy a Volkswagen, an old Volkswagen, for traveling around Europe, and then they wouldn't know what to do with it at the end. So I would buy it from them for a relatively low price, and then store it over the winter and fix it up, and then resell it to people who were coming the next summer.
Sounds like a good plan.
Small little business. I didn't earn much, but it was fun. Okay, how about this one? Where's the verb in this number 8?
Beeinflusste.
Yeah, influence here. To flow into, einflussen. Is this a strong verb or weak verb?
This is a strong verb.
Well, it's actually,
I believe.
They add the te, tack the te on there, so there's no change. It's actually a weak verb. Beeinflusste. And then the history, and then where's the genitive phrase? Here's the direct object.
Des Jahrhunderts.
Yeah, des Jahrhunderts, des 20. Jahrhunderts. And how do you know it's the genitive?
It has the telltale DES article with the added S at the end,
exactly,
or
yeah.
Masculine neuter.
Good. Good. Great. Let's do number 11, and then we'll skip over to the next thing. Let's read this. Der Versuch machte den Forschern große Schwierigkeiten. Everybody?
Der Versuch machte den Forschern große Schwierigkeiten.
Yeah. Where's the verb?
In this one, it is machte.
Subject is?
Der Versuch.
Good. The trial, or the experiment, or the trial. And then where's the direct object?
Schwierigkeiten.
Good. Here, and remember the pattern is the indirect object, or the dative case, will often, or very often, precede the direct object. So, which is a little bit different than the English word order, because we say the attempt caused great difficulties to the researchers, but you have here the reverse order from the standpoint of English. So the trial made great difficulties for. How do we know this is the dative plural?
It has the den plus n article.
Good. Den on the definite article, and then n tacked onto the end of the noun there. Literally made great difficulties for the researchers, or you could say idiomatically caused great difficulties. Okay, great. So that's the end of that. So let's take a little mental break. And by the way, obviously you can pause this recording whenever you want to, and or you can go back and listen to it again, whatever, or fast forward if something is boring to you. But we'll go ahead and let's see, and we're going to pick up now. We're going to go to the easy key, and we're on page 3. So this is a chance to let's see. Let me move this over a bit here. Okay, so this again is the resource for identifying some etymological connections between German and English. And so if you can see the screen here, let me see if I can just enlarge a little bit. Okay, that's good. Is that better? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, just move this over. Okay, so here the verb, and remember you're learning all the words that have a mark to the left, and this is learning words in word families. So gebären means to bear, to give birth to, and it's related to the Indo-European. I just wrote this in here, BHER. And this Indo-European is the hypothetical language that is the basis of all the the 9 or 8 or 9 major languages in the Indo-European family of languages. So it means to be born, to bear, and even to carry. Maybe it goes back. Maybe it's related to the Greek pharaoh, pharain. But it means to give birth, to bear. So we have die Geburt, which is the birth. You always repeat the definite article. This is a feminine noun, die Geburt. And then angeboren, innate, and then Eingeborene, so native, so someone who's born in a particular country. Now, what is this line here, Matthew, that doesn't extend all the way to the horizontal line? What does that mean?
It shows a minor break within the family, but they are all still within the same family of words.
Good. So this whole grouping here, this whole thing down here, sorry, all the way down to here, are all related etymologically to this one verb, gebären, and concept. So ent is a prefix meaning away from, so to be lacking. And here's the basic meaning. By the way, this BS isn't what you would typically think it would mean. It really means basic meaning. Did you pick that up right away, Matthew?
Nope, did not. So basic sense definitely makes more sense in this case.
Than the word BS, because that means it's something that you're crazy about, that doesn't have any importance whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
This is sort of just the opposite. Okay, so they're showing here ent means without. So entbehrlich, indispensable. You can do away with it. It can be lacking. And then die Bürde, the burden, again, that which you bear. Die Geburt, cost to be born, but it really means the fees or duty. So you have even a fee to enter into a theater or something could be die Geburt. What the cost that you bear in going into a concert or something. Gebühren, to be due to, be proper to. And then, so that's the end of that. That's the all those words that are related together. And this list, you should learn all the words that are marked here. But the more important thing is really learning the principles of how words are changed slightly, and the differences that occur in the meaning here to the right. Those are the skills that we really want to develop, and this resource is really excellent for that. Okay, going down to basteln, and that's related to, and I think, didn't you say that bastion is the closest word that you would think of?
Yes, I didn't immediately note the other ones because they're a little more specific to either sewing or crafting of things. But a bastion fortification is a fairly common word, I believe.
Yeah, so it's related. I mean, this word comes from basteln. So any word that's here that is in English and it has its connection here, meaning that the German is the origin of that word, as opposed to coming from the Latin via the Romance languages into English. Okay, and this means Germanic as a abbreviation, to make with a bast or a thatch. And then bow is the next one. What word do you connect with here? Bowen means to build or construct. Any word here that?
Probably Bowery might be the closest,
Mhm.
or bow,
But
as in Bowery.
don't you have a kind of a,
Oh yeah,
a
well,
method
one of the things we were talking about earlier was if you can create your own mnemonic devices that make the most sense to you. So for me to think of, if you're building or constructing something, you're probably bowing down to do things you're regularly
mhm,
having to do that, or if you're tilling or cultivating. So
mhm,
for me, that makes sense, but I would
mhm,
encourage you to whatever connections you can make, if they're silly, if they're goofy. Um, Maybe all the better because it'll help you remember it. So
mhm,
whatever connections you can make um, to connect the meaning to the word.
mhm. That's great. That's great. So this abbreviation is just Old High German, which is 8th or 9th or 10th century. So this was a word that meant to dwell, and so it's supposedly etymologically connected to bauen. So der Bau, the building, und das Gebäude, very common word, the building or an edifice, and and here Bauer is the peasant or the farmer. It really means the farmer, um, and so that's also connected to obviously to Bowen. Let's see. We have some other words. Okay, a couple more here. Again, for Baum, der Baum, the tree. Any word here that makes a connection for you
Yeah,
on
so
on
for
the
me
right?
in this one, thinking of the boughs of a tree or something that's overhead
Hmm.
uh, is kind of a way that that connects more with me.
Okay, so that's just one word we learned. And then Beben, it means to bever or to tremble. It means to quake or to tremble. Beben and Erd. Das Erdbeben is the earthquake. Behoof, actually, not very common word. I don't know why I marked this, but this is the last one, second to last. Bein, bone, very close to bone etymologically. Um, and then bison, a very common word to bite into something. And is that pretty close to our English word?
I believe that it's fairly close.
Mhm.
But again, another example of my goofy mind working is thinking about don't let the bison bite you. Um,
Oh, the bison.
so
You mean the oxen, or I mean the not the oxen, the
Yeah, like a buffalo, but
a
but a
buffalo. Sorry.
bison. It makes me think of the word bison connects with me, so don't let the bison bite you. Uh, for me, that would work to help me remember the connection between bison and to bite.
Huh, nice.
Uh,
And this
but
is a
again, that's just me. Other people may have different things that may connect with them in different ways, but
yeah,
it can be helpful.
great, great, great. I never thought of that. So bisschen is a very, very common word, and obviously related to bison a little bit. So you could say, Ich möchte ein bisschen Kaffee. I want a small amount of coffee, or ein bisschen um, ein bisschen essen, a little bit to eat. So, and then bisik is sarcastic, so I marked that also. But this is the word you want to learn and remember, bisschen. And what about the chen? What does that indicate again, Matthew? As a
Um,
suffix? It's a diminutive suffix like Buchlein, the little book, or bisschen means a small little bite. So it's always the diminutive. And it's always on a noun. It's always neuter. Okay, that's great. Let's go to 100 stems. Um, and okay, in this one we have just 7 through 9 is assigned for this third week. Brauchen, to need or to make use of. So here you have gebrauchen, to use. Sometimes you have this GE. This is not the past past tense augment, but just like you have hören to listen, and then gehören is actually to belong to someone. Sprachgebrauch, der Sprachgebrauch, everybody?
Der Sprachgebrauch.
So the use of language, or the word usage. Unbrauchbar.
Unbrauchbar.
So the un is obviously like un, just like English, unusable or unsuited. Der Missbrauch.
Der Missbrauch.
This miss is also, we have an English word like, so philanthropic, but you also have a misanthropic, so the one who doesn't do good things. So this means abuse in this case. Der Missbrauch. So this is a masculine noun. Brauch is masculine, and then this is also a masculine noun. Let's go to denken. Now here they do give you the three principal parts which we haven't been introduced to. This means to think. Here she thought, and then having thought. So denken, dachte, gedacht. The only reason that they include these because sometimes the vocabulary is taken from either the infinitive, from the third person singular past tense, that's the abbreviation for that, or the past participle, the PP. So denken is thinkable. Die Denkweise, everybody.
Die Denkweise.
And why is this feminine?
Because of the ending in the E, Weise.
Yeah, Weise. That's right, yeah. And then der Gedanke.
Der Gedanke.
Bedenken.
Bedenken.
To consider. So all these words are part of the verb to think, derivatives from that word. And then going down to this last one, on number 9, deuten, to interpret. Let's read some of these. Die Deutung.
Die Deutung.
Deutlich, clear.
Deutlich.
Would you have any word, any mnemonic that might make you remember deuten? And this is also meaning, clear.
I'm not sure. I would have to think about that one for a while. Nothing hits me immediately, but sometimes I have to sit and think about them for a while and kind of roll them over.
Okay.
And something will come to me.
Yeah. So these are all related. So bedeuten, to signify. Die Bedeutung, because the ung is feminine. Bedeutungslos. Here's a suffix for equivalent to our suffix less, less. So help less, without help. So bedeutungslos is meaningless, as you say here. Bedeutsam, it just means meaningful, with also a very common suffix. And bedeuten is significant, sort of as a present participle. Okay, so that's what we're covering for chapter 3 in the 100 stems. So let's take a look at the workbook. Again, we've covered an awful lot of material, so please feel free to take a break. Let's see, Giesbach. All right. So in our last section, we covered, in looking at this workbook, we looked at some of the personal pronouns. So you have er, es, sie. This is the third person singular. He, it, and she. And also, if you in the exercise that we're going to do in a second, if you open your textbook, the Jannach 5th or 6th edition, to page 3 in chapter 1, you'll see the conjugation of the verb to be, which is repeated here. So one of the virtues of working through this text, which is a separate text than from the Jannach textbook itself, is that it presents the same material but in a different fashion, in a different way, sometimes in advance or sometimes repeated later on, so that you get a second go at learning these. So obviously learning the conjugation of the verb to be is very important. So ich bin, du bist, er ist, wir sind, ihr seid, sie sind. You should just repeat that several times over in your mind as you're working through this. The personal pronouns, and by the way, this text, as I mentioned earlier, was written for foreign students coming into Germany from all different countries, with all different languages, just learning German. So that the whole thing is written in German only. So you actually learn quite a bit as we work through this. But the point is that the pronoun, the personal pronoun, has to agree with its antecedent. So let's read this one. Hier ist der Lehrer. Arbeitet viel. Everybody.
Hier ist der Lehrer. Arbeitet viel.
What's the antecedent of
Is der Lehrer.
Der Lehrer, which is masculine, so you say he, obviously. Now here's another one. Wo ist der Bleistift? Liegt hier. Everybody?
Wo ist der Bleistift? Liegt hier.
And Germans, without knowledge of English much, would say, where is the pencil? He is lying here, and which sounds really strange to our ears because we always say it for anything not personal as an object. But they always have the agreement with the personal pronouns with its antecedent. So where's the pencil? It is lying here is our translation. Here's another example here. Das Heft liegt dort. Everybody?
Das Heft liegt dort.
This is a neuter noun. Es liegt nicht hier.
Es liegt nicht hier.
So the notebook lies there. It does not lie here. Very profound sentence. But S has to be S because of what? Matthew?
It's antecedent das Heft.
Exactly, yeah. Here's another one. Der Lehrer, Lehrerin, the female teacher, comes from Berlin. Sie fragt viel, so she asks a lot. But here, wo liegt die Stadt? This is a feminine noun. Sie liegt in Deutschland. So this would be, where does the city of Berlin lie? And then Germans would say, she lies in Germany, which sounds crazy to our ears, but it's we would say it. But this always has to have the agreement here. That's just a little bit of a review from what we did last time. So let's go down to this exercise on page 5. And we did that one already. This is supplying only in here. Do you see this text here,
Yes.
Matthew? So you're supplying one of these three forms, either do, ir, or z. And for each of these examples, I'm just giving you a sampling of how to do these exercises. Then you would do the rest of them on your own, whichever is assigned. So Peter ist mein Freund. Ich frage Peter. How would you fill that in?
Gehst du in die Schule?
Good. So you have to form not only this is a second person singular, not only do you have to form the proper form of the verb, but you have to supply the personal pronoun. So gehst du in die Schule. Arbeitest du viel? Lernst du Deutsch? Kommst du aus England? How about this one? Paul ist auch mein Freund. Ich frage Paul und Peter. Geht
ihr in die Schule?
Geht ihr, second person plural, which is like you all friends of mine, right? Okay, so let's see. Then here you fill in the verb forms, the proper verb forms for the person. So wir arbeiten viel, arbeitet ihr auch viel? Nein, then fill this out. Number 3.
Nein, wir arbeitet nicht viel.
This is en. Wir arbeiten nicht viel. And then how about this number 4? This would be lernen Sie Deutsch. So this is the proper formal way of talking, and this is always identical to the third person plural. Lernen Sie Deutsch. So you can fill out the rest of those, and then the next page, and we're almost done with this marathon chapter number 3. Is just filling in the proper form of sein, and there you need the conjugation of the verb to be. So this would be ich bin der Lehrer. Sind Sie auch Lehrer? Are you also the teacher? Nein, wir sind Schüler. We are pupils. Okay, that's how that one goes. And then this one here with a very antiquated picture, just for fun for reading. Let's read a little bit. The instruction. This is a Abschnitt 2, so section 2. What is on the front here, Matthew, in the picture?
There's a blackboard on the front window.
Yeah,
or on the front wall. Windows on the left.
All
and,
right.
And a door and a map on the right.
Okay, we have a trick question coming up here, right? Let's read some of this. Hier ist ein Zimmer. Es ist das Schulzimmer. Everybody?
Hier ist ein Zimmer. Es ist das Schulzimmer.
This means a room, and neuter noun. Das Schulzimmer ist groß.
Das Schulzimmer ist groß.
Why do they say S here?
Because its antecedent is das Schulzimmer.
Perfect, yeah. Es hat einen Fußboden. What gender is Fußboden, and how can you tell?
Fußboden is feminine because of the en ending.
Well, it's actually, what you meant to say is masculine, because it's en. Yeah, this would be eine if this were feminine, but we haven't come to that yet, so don't worry about that. Eine Decke und vier Wände. Okay, so you want to translate those first several lines?
So at the very beginning,
yeah.
here is a room. It is a schoolroom. The schoolroom is large. It has a floor, a ceiling, and 4 walls.
Good. Vorn means in the front. Hängt die Tafel. Dort liegen auch die Kreide und der Schwamm. So how would you do that? So in the front hangs
the board,
yeah?
or is it?
You could say blackboard.
Yeah, I believe it's. There lies.
And this is plural. There lie also the chalk.
Also the chalk and the eraser.
Good. Hinten. Now here's your question. Hinten hängt die Landkarte. This means behind hangs the map of the land map. Is that correct?
Not according to the picture. The picture has the map on your right-hand side, when really it ought to be on the camera face if it were behind us.
Exactly. Yeah. Is this right here? Rex ist die Tür. On the right is the.
And that one is correct because Rex is going to be to the right, is the door.
You think we should write to the publisher?
Yeah. Yeah,
definitely.
I think this is probably old enough that I don't know that they'll
maybe not respond, right? Okay. Anyway, thanks so much. That's just the beginning of that section that you'll read in class. So thanks so much, especially Matthew, for helping out. You've really been a great assistance in going through the material, and I hope you've enjoyed. Hope you've enjoyed the introduction to the chapter 3. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.